Hi everybody, it's Alex Fournier for alexfournierart.com and Artistic Purposes. Today we're going to be dealing with the 1 minute figure. There's not a moment to spare. All right, let's get started. What is the point? It's so short. If you have any experience attending a life drawing session in person or online, you've likely run into this. This session begins and you start doing 1 minute poses, maybe up to 10 of them, 15, maybe even more if it's a short pose session. You're flipping pages and the buzzers are going off and you don't know, like, how can I afford these pages? What's going on here? It can be really frustrating if you don't know, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I doing for this minute? It doesn't seem like enough time to do anything. Well, I'm here today to give some of my thoughts on what is the purpose of 1 minute figure. This is not going to be all-encompassing. This is my opinion based on years of experience and also what I enjoy about it. To me, the first and foremost benefit of 1 minute figure drawing, especially at the beginning of a session, is to get the cobwebs out. Get the blood flowing, move your arms around. Oh, pose is done, flip the page. It's over, move on. It's also a stress reliever. Everything you brought to the session, well, you better leave it because you got no time. You gotta keep on moving quickly, right? They're moving, next pose. Number 2, learn how to spot kind of the inspiration, the essence, the one form that is that pose. And not everyone's gonna see it identically, but you will be able to explain what it is that you saw and why you liked it, why it was interesting to you. And very importantly, number 3, learn to simplify. You're going onto a desert island. You can't grab everything. What are you gonna grab? Grab the one thing. What is the form? Where's the light? What is interesting? Time's up, hand check. No more drawing. You're dead. Then you move on. Next pose. All right, let's get started. When I was getting into production on this figure drawing series, there was definitely one model that came to mind. Super dynamic, creative, athletic, and that's Ashlibee. So I reached out and she was all on board with the training series. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use her reference imagery during the session, and I'm gonna leave her Instagram and her Gumroad in the description. And you'll be able to reach out and purchase those for yourself. And I suggest that you do that. They're very good images. All right, just like this is a real session, I'm gonna pick a pose and I'm gonna set a timer for myself. I might talk through it, I might comment on it, but we're basically gonna plug our way through a handful of poses. Once you've watched this video at least once all the way through, I would suggest take it back to the beginning, get your paper, charcoal, pencils ready, go in the description, find Ashley's Gumroad account, download her photos, start the video again, and let's draw together. Today I'm using a General's Compressed Charcoal 4B. It's a charcoal stick. The box looks like that. All right, there's no time to waste. Let's get started. Timer's going. Okay, so we see a rhythm. Okay, see these shapes? Okay, just a moment, let's get her other arm. Okay, so we got her, at least her other arm. All right, not bad. So we got this rhythm that's here, right? We have these, basically, this side is stretch, this side is squash, right? So squash and stretch is a really important piece. Whenever you see that S curve in a pose, so one side is going to be more stretched than the other. Okay, so that's a very important thing, that you'll find a rhythm, you'll find a pattern here, right? That's this circular thing. And on the other side, it'll be compressed, right? So let's try this next one. This is very similar, but there's something different about it in how I'm going to attack it. So let's set the timer, and here we go. All right. try to keep it smaller. Okay, did you notice what the difference was? Okay. Time's up. Hand check. No more drawing. And of course, I was just that close to getting the head. So if I would have finished the head, there's some interesting kind of dynamics with the way the anatomy of the head is in this angle. So you see her nose, your lips. And it's got hair up. Okay. Okay, so you see those kind of simple strokes that if I would have been maybe a little quicker on somewhere, I could have gotten that. But only another 15, 20 seconds, and that would be there. Okay? All right, so did you see how in this other one, this rhythm is circular that goes all the way around, and the squash is pretty matching that circular compression. Okay, over here, what I saw is the first thing is this. And so it's a lot tighter of a curl here, and then this is what straightens it out. The other thing to note in terms of my style, and especially with using a compressed charcoal, is you see I try to emphasize all the places where there's a curve, right? And so even here, instead of going straight into here, I'll curve it and curve it back here, right? Same with here, I'll curve it in. Same with right up here. You see how I curve all these, and that's something to do with three-dimensionality, right? When you're trying to draw a cylinder, right? It will look like a cylinder if you keep both sides curved, but as soon as you just draw two lines, it's not a cylinder, right? It's only a cylinder if you start to imply something that tells you that this is round on both sides, right? So that's one of my tricks with compressed charcoal and just the movement of my arm. All right, let's try another one, see if we can squeeze it onto the left side of the page here. I'm going to try to go smaller than I really want to. Okay, you'll notice kind of where I implied where her neck is, which I'll go back in a minute. Okay. And okay, so let's quickly get eye shapes, quickly get turning edge on the, okay, so we got a few features. Can we get this finished up before the time? Almost. Okay, so pretty interesting. We've got our forms here, and if there's anything I really wanted to go a little bit deeper into this was to identify where the spine is, okay? That was one thing I wanted to be able to do. And the other thing would have been to define where the ear is and quickly get an impression where the rest of the head is, right? Even there I would have been happier, but boy, if I could have you know, drawn more of the detail there, or at least get a harder part on the shadow on the hair, just to give some three-dimensionality, and maybe a shadow there. Okay, and obviously good poses you wanna keep drawing anyway. The minute's up. Hand check. No more drawing. You're dead. This is a pretty fun pose. Let's start it out here. Okay. I feel pretty happy about that. It's a very beautiful pose. There's a lot going on, but you see how we've got a lot going on in this drawing. You see how we do have this showing that there's a turn, right? That this is over the top of this. Okay, we do have some foreshortening. You see how I changed the shape of the forearm there to show that there's foreshortening, right? And you know, we would refine it in there, but basically that shape is showing, you know, is showing the arm foreshortened. Okay, and notice how I totally simplified things that I knew I wouldn't have time to do, and they're not germane to the understanding of the pose. They complete the finer work, but you know that that's a hand, right? Okay, and I knew by sacrificing the hand and maybe the toes, I would be able to get to the basics of the face and maybe even this other arm, which I was able to do. This back leg, not as big of a deal. In fact, you could even choose, if you even eliminated that, you know, if you take this back out, it's interesting, but it's also interesting here. All right, let's try this one. It's a very fun pose. Got an interesting profile, some good twist. Okay, so let's set a timer. This is gonna be a challenge. Okay, let's draw a little S curve there. Okay, so I might have to just try the profile, sacrifice the other parts until I get this. Okay, can we get to the arm? Okay, what else can we get to? Quick spine. Time's up. All right, pretty fun. Okay, so ours actually looks like some Greek or Roman statue. I don't know how it got the pointed nose, and feels like maybe it's in bronze, but it's supposed to be Ashley. All right, let's try this one, maybe small, and see how it goes. See how far to the edge we can get. Okay, I kind of lost my geography there because of the hair, and then run out of room here, but got a hand over there. say the ponytail. Okay, I don't want to ruin the other drawing, so we'll have it be behind. Okay. All right, not too bad. Got some three-dimensionality there. We obviously ran out of room on where her head is, but that's all right. All right, so we got pretty much the whole form. If I were going to draw any more on here that I was looking forward to if I had any more time, it'd be these shadows from the straps and the spine here. And so what I would have wanted to do is just go this tiny bit further and get right to here. So if you have like a strap here, and if I can do this kind of shadow, I can show this indent going to the spine, right? So that was what I was looking forward to if I had time. And right here, you know, let's say you've got, you know, the other straps, just doing a shadow on the side of the straps that would have the shadow, right? And if you have these, although that was too big of a strap, but but those are fun things to imply, like a shadow just on one side of the strap, okay? And you have basically some three-dimensionality under these straps. And you can even do something like, this would be the next phase that I would do if the drawing was to do the turning edge, right? So that's what I do to emphasize this three-dimensionality, is to really get this turning edge on the side of most of the forms, okay? And it really builds up some three-dimensionality in the forms. Okay, same thing here. Okay, and then if you're trying to do the border of the swimsuit, what's important to try to make it look real is to make sure the shadow is on the correct side of it, right? And potentially do the turning edge on that one too. Okay, so that's the additional thing I would have liked to do. There's always, most of the time in your short poses, because they are harder for the model to hold a dynamic pose for 15-20 minutes, but most of them are fun to take further if you get a chance to. So the other thing that'd be fun to do is the three-dimensionality of the hair with just a few simplified strokes. You can do that. Okay. And the other thing to talk about, just, you know, on the head, like the back of the head, is there's always this kind of, the neck comes in, right? And the hairline is here, right? But that neck is coming up above the shoulder. So you have to make sure that It's not just like a flat shoulders and then like a peg on top, but that the neck leads all the way to the base of the hairline. And sometimes is very pronounced. Okay, and then because there's a, if you looked at the side view, because the back of the head does go in, right, like this. So the neck is coming in here, but then it comes back out. So to imply that shadow up here instead of really dark right there is really trying to show you would have maybe a dark part here. It would change to something else. You'd have a hard part that's kind of on the turn right here. And then in this case, we have the top knot kind of hair thing going on. And in that case, you want the core shadow to be partway over the circle, just like it's a ball. If you've watched my video about bounce, that's what I'm talking about. So the exercise where you have a ball and a cast shadow. So this is seen so many areas. So if this is the top of the braid, this is also a ball, right? And that's why you leave the reflection where it is, the highlight where it is, okay? Same thing if you were, you know, if you're looking at the bottom of a chin in a profile, the bottom of a nose in a profile, okay? There is usually like a reflected part here, and maybe there's a cast shadow down here, okay? But a lot of times there's this empty spot right here, okay? And that's really what I'm talking about. It's called reflected light or the bounce light. Let's try on a little fake side view, okay? And also like the side of the head here, this would have this, but maybe it's not as dark right there, okay? It's almost like a ball in itself. Got light on the top, okay? And then down here, it might be dark again, similar to here, okay? Okay, not too bad. All right, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with your classes. Be sure to check out Ashley's Gumroad in the bottom of the description. Buy these images for yourself so you can actually rewind and watch this video. Do it with me. And if you want to share, we'd love to see what you create. Be sure to tag both myself and Ashley. Our Instagrams are in the description. And feel free to take your time. It doesn't have to be only a minute. You can take more time, but certainly go buy those images from Ashley. All right, have a great day.